and to have this opportunity to share with you from and on the basis of the Word of God. Thanks again for the invitation through your pastor to share on this challenging and stretching subject. We are approaching living holy, or holy living, through the sacrificial life of Christ, following the footsteps of Jesus in sacrificial living. We see a very close relationship between sacrifice and holiness. As we explore sacrificial living, we are exploring holy living. Sacrificial living is holy living. Sacrificial living is the way to holy living, and when we achieve anything of sacrificial living, we are engaging in holy living. We see sacrificial living as presenting the gift of ourselves as a self-offering to God for God's purposes. And that is why we, in following the footsteps of Christ, appreciate the need to come to God in humility. If we are presenting the gift of our self-offering to God, we have to start right there, at the place of humility. And as we present ourselves to God in humility, we also find the invitation to present ourselves to God in simplicity. Simplicity is kind of the other side of the coin of humility. Humility has to do with the self, presenting ourselves to God as a self-offering. And simplicity has to do with stuff. We know how stuff is important to self. So we present ourselves and our stuff to God. As an offering, we have the combination of humility and simplicity. Want to thank your worship leader tonight again for capturing so well some of what was said, some of those practical suggestions. We really are inspired by how Jesus did not base his life on a material foundation. How he had no anxiety about daily provision. How he depended on the generosity of others, gave his life to make a contribution to the life of others, and was willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice. From Jesus, we appreciate that all of what we have in life is a gift from God, is being cared for by God, so we should care for it as unto God, using it to serve others and making it available to others. So in addition to the ones our worship leader shared with us, deeper appreciation for creation, being careful about the use of credit, being plain and honest in our speech, refusing anything that leads to the oppression of others, and shunning whatever does not put God first, are some of the ways we should remind ourselves to pursue the simple life. Remember our conclusion: ostentation, opulence, any form of extravagance is kind of going in the opposite direction of the holy living into which God in Christ has called us. We're extending it tonight. We've talked about humility. We've talked about simplicity. What should we be talking about tonight? Integrity. Integrity. So, we continue to say that observation of how Jesus lived, how Christ Jesus operated in the world, shows his life was marked by the kind of sacrificial living which manifests holiness, divine holiness. And this third characteristic of his holy living was evident. For example, it was because of his integrity that he lived with purity. What we see of the story of Jesus' life, is there anything there that we would say, boy, Jesus was impure? Can you think of anything? How about eating with the tax collectors and sinners? Never become impure by that. Alright, I'll give you one. How about when he allowed this lady to just imagine, right? Jesus is reclining around the table. Now the cultural anthropologists tell us different things about what it may have been like. Say, for example, that they may have been facing the table front way and laying down with the foot behind them, or if we want to even think about our way of sitting at the table. However it works, this lady is washing Jesus' feet with her tears and wiping his feet with her hair. And bear in mind what kind of woman they say she was. Jesus good enough. Yeah, you don't think so? When you think about all stuff like that. But the truth is, you are right, that we don't see anything that sully the holiness of Jesus nowhere in the description of his life. In fact, what we see is that many people came to recognize how he just spoke and operated with a sense of authority. When he spoke, they said, wow, goodness, it's like they didn't just hear something good, it's like it just hit them, it impacted them. And then, most interestingly, they brought Jesus for trial. Remember this? They brought Jesus to trial. And the person who had the final say in what was to happen to him, I mean the earthly person, who had the final say in what was to happen to him. Here's what he said. I find no basis for a charge against him. He didn't say it once. Not just twice, but 3 times. And you know about the number 3 in scripture. That it's meant to convey a sense of, okay, that's it. Not just the nominative or the comparative, but the superlative. There's no basis for a charge against him. So we know that Jesus lived with integrity. Was found not guilty. We know, for example, that there are persons in the justice system who are found guilty erroneously. Doesn't that happen all the time? Right? Somebody is accused and gets convicted. They are convicted erroneously. But Jesus was not convicted. He was exonerated. What did the judge say? I find no basis for a charge against him. But they still executed him. Now that he was found guilty wrongly, he was exonerated. But he was still executed. That's a unique case. In any court anywhere in the world where somebody is found not guilty, what they would do? Don't release them. They didn't release them. Integrity is living in consistent devotion to God. In all areas of our lives, at all times, and in all circumstances. Integrity is living in consistent devotion to God in all areas of our lives, at all times, and in all circumstances. Consistent devotion to God. This is what we saw in Jesus. He had a consistent devotion to the Father in the Spirit, in all areas of his life. All areas of his life. And at all times. There's no time that we check Jesus that he took a break from living in consistent devotion to the Father through the Spirit. And that is where the challenge is for us. All areas of his life, at all times and all circumstances. So, to the extent that he had a private life, when he was by himself with the woman at the well, we could say, although he was at ministry, or when he was with the group of the disciples, or when he was talking to the Sanhedrin, or when he was under pressure, it didn't matter. Whatever he faced, he had that consistent dedication, devotion to the Father through the Spirit. Herein lies the challenge for us. Don't we know that there are persons who, when they are in public, this is the nicest, holiest, wonderful person. I remember as a youngster, there's this person on radio that I admired very greatly. Person always presented very upright demeanor. And I happened to call into the program one day. And whatever was the point in the program that I called it, they put me on hold. And you know, when you put on hold, you can hear what is happening in the studio, right? There probably is an advertisement or so going on, and you can hear what is happening in the studio. And so, you know what blue light means? Some class expletives were being uttered, and something caused some upset inside here. But then, the very next moment, when the ad finished, and the announcer went back and went, "You are completely different." So, we know people like that, not true? And sometimes we are like that. And Sunday morning when we come to church, we are holy. When somebody steps on our toe, go to the church yard, it's a different place. So here's the thing. If we are not prepared to live with integrity, it means that we are not surrendering all the components of our lives to sacrificial or holy living. And that's what integrity is. Integrity is related to and from the word integral, where all the parts are in their rightful place. So if integrity is consistent devotion to God in all areas of our lives, at all times, and in all circumstances. If there is an area of our life, or a time, or a circumstance when we're not living with integrity, then that part of our life, or that time in our life, or that circumstance in our life, we are not surrendered to God. And it means that in that moment, the sacrificial living, the holiness breaks down. So integrity is crucial to holiness and sacrificial living because it is the means through which we hold it all together. It's the moment, it's the means through which all the parts are properly interlocked so that we can manifest the character, so that we can live out the conduct, so that we can carry out the care that God desires of us. So if we're not prepared to live with integrity, it means we're not surrendering all the components of our lives in holiness, in sacrificial living to God. So, if we are to have holiness, if we are to practice holy living, if we are to have that deep following of Jesus in sacrificial living, integrity is important. A commitment to live with integrity shows that there are no parts of our life no aspects of our character, no element of our conduct, no part of our care that we want to withhold from God. None of it. All of it should be yielded, presented, surrendered to God. So, I think all of us should do some soul searching. All of us should consistently check ourselves and see where we are in relation to integrity, in relation to manifesting the holiness of God in the integrity with which we live. So, I suggest that we should do some soul searching. We should do some submission of ourselves to God's examination and check all the areas of our lives, all the aspects of our character, all the elements of our conduct, and see if there are any gaps, if there are any parts that are manifesting failure in integrity, failure in holy living, failure in the sacrificial surrender to God that God requires of us. You remember this chorus we used to sing? Still sing it? Search me, O God. We really need to search ourselves and really put ourselves under the searchlight of God's gaze to see how am I living. When I am out there on the road, when I am in the workplace, when I am on the playfield, when I am with my friends in the social club, when I am at home, unfortunately sometimes that is the place we are the worst. We show a good thing to the public, but it's the people who are at home who really know who we are. It's that Johnny and Diana who can tell you if there's any integrity in me. Let them see me when all the doors are closed. So this guy that comes and stands up and speaks, how does he treat them? What example does he show them when nobody's looking? So we need to examine ourselves. And we should identify from that process if there are any areas of inconsistency and work out how to overcome them. So one do the soul searching and one to identify if there are areas that require a program of dealing with them. And then, I mean, if there are areas of gap, if there is some element of hypocrisy, if there is some element of indecency, if there is some element of immorality, if there is some element of dishonesty, as people who are striving for holiness, we can't be comfortable that they are there. Can we? We can't be comfortable. And so we need to work out how to deal with them. And I'm suggesting that we should seek to bring more and more of those aspects of our lives into conformity to Christ. So, is it that I have to struggle when I'm with my friends? Is it that I have to struggle when I get frustrated? Is it that I have to struggle when I think no one is looking? that I have to struggle when I fall short in my devotional practice? Where is it that there is the challenge? And begin to find ways of drawing ever deeper into communion with God, bringing that aspect of our life in conformity to Christ. Of course, one of the struggles we have, as someone was saying to me recently, is boy, you sin and you ask forgiveness, and you go back and do the same thing, and you have to be asking forgiveness over and over again. It's kind of a challenge. No, wonderfully, the grace of God is precisely available for that. That God will welcome our recognition of our shortcoming, and to the extent that we can yield to divine grace, that is available to help us to experience transformation. We can bring more and more of self into conformity to Christ, where God in Christ through the Spirit can empower us to grow in that area. And the truth is that if we examine our lives over time, we realize that even incrementally, we're not the same person we used to be. Where, as long as we are truly yielding and depending on God, over time, some of the struggles go. Some take much longer than others, and some seem to stick around forever. But as we allow God to work on us, more and more of self comes into conformity to Christ. But part of what we need to do with that is to deliberately nurture virtuous living intentionally and with deliberation. So, intentionally and deliberately, we should be nurturing virtuous living. We search ourselves, identify the gaps, seek to bring them in conformity to Christ more and more, and nurture virtuous living intentionally and deliberately. So I want to talk to you a little bit about key virtues and then do a demonstration of it in the life of Jesus. So, the moral philosophers have identified what they refer to as the four cardinal virtues. The primary baseline virtues that should guide any life that seeks to be upright. Of course, this is general moral philosophy. As Christians, we add what we call the spiritual virtues. So you end up with, and it's three primary spiritual virtues. So you end up with 7 key virtues that should guide any attempt to live with integrity. So the first cardinal virtue is prudence or wisdom. Prudence or wisdom. This is the commitment to seek to live judiciously, to make wise choices in which we are not easily overcome by the temptations and the pressures to behave and to conduct ourselves inappropriately. So, the first cardinal virtue, prudence or wisdom. Of course, a lot of the trouble that we get ourselves in sometimes, if we had spent a little time thinking about it, we perhaps wouldn't end up there. You don't think so? Hmm? We just had taken a little time to figure it out or to get some advice. Take a common example that we use with the young people. One thing they always ask me, Pastor, what's wrong with kissing? Isn't it okay? So I always tell them what one of my senior pastors said many years ago. And of course, they're not talking about the little troops or evil. They're talking about serious stuff. So, very senior colleague says, figure this out, that this is uptown shopping for a downtown bargain. You get it? Yeah. Some people ask. Lips are uptown, other stuff is downtown. All right, let me give you a better one. I remember when I was a pastor in one of the countries. I mean, one of our Jamaica, not countries as in abroad, but I went to my garage one Monday morning, and one of the guys in the garage who was always very jovial and upbeat and excited, I noticed he was drab and down and miserable. So what going on, my youth? What? Come to you. I don't know you that. Say, Pastor, I'm a fool. Say weekend, I go look for one of my girlfriends, and never carry no rubbers because I never plan to do anything. I know, sir, I'm there and one thing lead to another. I know, I not even know if I catch anything. So, here one of his colleagues now trying to console him. My youth, them things that happen, they come in like your brain, move from up there, so I'm going down there. So, if he had given a little thinking to it, perhaps he would have decided to not go or stop on the way. I'm just saying that sometimes if you just pause to consider what's coming next, what this action is going to lead to, what consequences are going to arise. I mean, the same is true if you, we're not pressuring the young people in it. One male student calls, whatever is the thing that happened on the playfield, but one male student calls another student, it's a little while back, a B-man. You know that word, right? The student who is called a B-man gets upset, and I don't know if he knows karate, but he kicks down the one who called him so.
The one who gets kicked down leaves the compound and he comes back on the compound carrying a well-sharpened machete. He didn't enter by the school gate, he entered by a side of the school that don't have any fence. So happened that that side has to cross the playing field, and a teacher happened to be there and see him with the machete and accosted him. So he's taken to the principal's office. Parent is called, and the whole situation outlined. And this is what the father says. One thing I have to say, I would not have brought that cutlass to school without using it. That's what he says. Where it start from? Right, that too, but I mean the whole incident on the compound. Somebody says an unkind word, then somebody kick down and tempers flare out of control. And I mean, it happened on the road where we're driving. People will flip the bird at you or cuss you out, or we are on edge. You walking, you're going into the bus now, and you very careful. You don't want to step on nobody's toe, because it could be the end of you. Because it's as if the sense of control that we should have is gone away. And when you mix all these things together, I keep coming back to the road. You are traveling down the road in a line of traffic. I can't think too easily of a street that will be a good one, but I'm sure you see it all about the place here. I mean, around here where you are. But nothing is coming up the other side. Something is obviously wrong down there, sir. And there are 100 people in the line patiently waiting to go down. And then you have the 4 or 5 that come out and race down the side that's supposed to go in the opposite direction, so that when what is causing the blockage down there must come up, the road blocked on 2 sides now. And then that will spark a war. This lady in Linstead last week, you heard the story? She was pregnant. She was to deliver the baby this week, or babies, depending on which one of the stories is to be believed. And they chased her. I mean, I'm trying to imagine how she's running, because if she was due this week, it means that she not just start show. It means that somebody said it's twins she was carrying. So just imagine. They chased her in that state and pumped bullets into her. Where's them from? They say is her cousin they was looking for, because the week before there was an accident. But if you can't catch Quack, you catch him trouble. But that's where it started from, some road rage incident. And nobody has been able to bring their temper under control. So lives are snuffed out.
To live with integrity, to live in holiness, you need the capacity for self-control. But temperance is the cardinal virtue. And it doesn't only apply to the passion of anger, but to any kind of passion. Any kind of circumstance where we are out of control, where we are not under God's control, whether it's drugs, or greed, or any other form of desire that rules us, so we are not operating with moral integrity. Number 4. Fortitude or courage.
fortitude, or courage. Tell me something. If when you get home this evening, as you are going in, you hear a commotion, somebody, when you take a peep outside, somebody is committing a crime, and you kind of have a sense it's who, but when you see it's who, you know it's that dangerous person. If they know, say, it's you, what would you do? You would call the police. You would call the police if, and you would be prepared to not just call the police and say, but tomorrow when the police wants you to come in and give a statement and to agree for the court date, you would follow through with it. This is what I am seeing, brethren. This is what I am seeing. Why? Afraid. The fourth cardinal virtue is courage. Because I raised that question about this lady over there in Linstead area, Jericho. It's becoming so hot. It's one of the hottest. I mean, people are afraid of Spanish Town where I live, but Linstead is outstripping us badly now. When these things happen, somebody see, you know. But we say we're not talk because they're coming for us. They will come for us. And I have to tell you, this is not a joke thing, you know. I remember sitting with the police in Spanish Town. I don't know, people probably forgetting, but I don't know if you know the name to say a year ago. The reputed Spanish Town gangster who was away and deported. Yeah, I hear some people call him the name. You're not afraid to call him the name. The police tell us, a group of us pastors meeting, that the last time they had him, the 17 witnesses that they were depending on, that all of them died. Every one of them. 17. But here's the question that I ask. If on the basis of that we decide we're not going to say anything, what's going to happen? There's going to come a day when they are going to be ruling the country because all of us are cowering in fear and not taking the risk to challenge them. Knowing that this is the only way to engage the evil. But I mean, I know that you're going to look at me and say those are very nice words, but I save in my skin.
I have heard of cases, and up to 2 weeks ago, I heard somebody said some matter was reported to the police, and the person who made the report sent it by text also, and the person to whom the matter was referring to took his phone, he knew the person, and said, if I didn't know you and love you, I'd kill you. See the message you sent to the police here?
Yes, that's
So people are afraid.
that's regular. Unfortunately, that's actually regular. Because you know, for example, in certain communities, you have to periodically submit your phone for examination, and they have ways of checking the call history and the message history, even if you delete it. But I mean, right in my little town there was a police operation to one of the communities they were going to pick up somebody in one of these communities that caused problem. And a police officer was on the phone in the station, called one old name, but move them and come for you. Of course, they caught him.
The challenge, of course, there is if we are going to be able to manifest the virtue that faces down this kind of stuff. So courage.
And here is where the cardinal virtues reach their limit. Because we know what they are. We know that wisdom, fairness, self-control, fortitude, or prudence, justice, temperance, courage. We know that they are good, but we don't find ourselves good enough to live them out. We are not able, which is where the spiritual virtues come in. The spiritual virtues are 1 Corinthians 13, I think. And now 3 remain. What are they? Faith, hope, and love. What is it? The 1611 translation. When was the yes? When was the King James translated again?
Charity.
Right. It says charity. I'm saying in the language of 1611 when that translation was done. Right. But it's love. So here is it. In order to practice that deep wisdom, that deep justice, that deep self-control, and that deep courage, we need the anchorage of faith in God. If we don't have faith in God, we can't practice the courage in the kind of circumstances that I have been raising for you. It requires spiritual virtue. So, and if we don't have that faith in God, we won't have any hope that things can get better. So it's not just faith. And faith is trust in the reality and reliability of God. Right? Faith is believing, Hebrews says, that God is, and that He is a rewarder of those who trust in Him. So God is real and reliable. Unless we are willing to put our faith in the reality of God and the reliability of God, we won't be able to practice these virtues to the extent that we should. And when we do have that faith, then we can sustain the hope that things can change, that we can work at experiencing a transformation in ourselves to begin with. We are not hopeless. And therefore we can
Practice hopefulness in how we deal with what we face in the world.
And of course, are we going to be operating out of love of God, love of neighbor, and even love of self? So, if we love our neighborhood and it is being overtaken by crime, that love that is resting on faith and hope in God, that love that arises from our experience of life in God through Christ, is going to suggest to us that we can't allow this to happen to our neighbors and to our family. So this is where the spiritual virtues marry with the cardinal virtues to present us, to prepare us, to deepen in us the capacity for integrity in how we live, for the kind of integrity that's the manifestation of the holiness of God. Let's look at some of this in the life of Jesus. We won't have time to read it. Fortunately, it's a familiar story. When you go home, read John's Gospel, chapters 18 and 19. I want to just make a couple comments on how Jesus is presented in the story. And the key thing I already told you about. This is where Jesus was brought to trial before Pilate. And when they lay out the accusation, Pilate said, I find no basis for a charge against him. And they make more argument, and Pilate went back in and questioned Jesus again, and he came back out and said, I find no basis for a charge against him. And they still say more things, and he take Jesus in again, and he question him, and then you have to come out back and say, I find no basis for a charge against him. And it's after that now that he did the wash hand thing. I mean, which was very unsuccessful, but which resulted in the crucifixion of Jesus. So I offer to us that when we look at that portrait of Jesus, he maintained his conviction and character despite the circumstances he was in and the consequences he would face. You remember one time Pilate asked Jesus a question, and when the way Jesus answered, or the fact that he did not answer, Pilate said, do you know that I have the authority to release you or to make you get killed? So that was kind of an opening to say to Jesus, you can answer me in the kind of way that I can let you go. Right? Jesus never died. Huh? He maintained his conviction and his character despite the circumstance he was in and the consequences he would face. That's integrity. That's integrity. When you come under the most intense pressure, are you going to be able to sustain your convictions and hold your virtue? Jesus not only maintained his conviction and his character, but he retained his composure and demeanor despite the obvious injustice and the gratuitous violence he endured. How do we behave when we experience any little wrong? I mean, the other night, I had occasion to be in a fast food place, and for some reason, things were probably a little slower than normal. It's usually slow in a fast food place. I don't know if it's because the hunger make you think that the people should work more magic. And of course, if they give you the food raw, you're going to. But just that, require a little patience. And it's interesting. People who I went in and saw weren't saying anything, but some people who just come. It's where you hear the way they go on. I mean, anytime we sense that we are experiencing a little wrong, we go on bad. In fact, we have a theory that if you don't go on bad, you're not going to get through. Long time we take up. This is this thing where the homeless carves up the most milk. We throw that out with a long time. Look at Jesus. Remember my little argument at the start. This is the only case we know of somebody who was exonerated 3 times. I find no basis for a charge. In fact, it didn't even say the charge don't amount to anything, Him said the charge don't even arise. No basis for a charge. Much more a consideration. This is what they would call the preliminary hearing or the grand jury. There's no charge there. And how he was handled. And in all of that, he maintained his composure and his demeanor. That is a manifestation of deep integrity. Alright? Furthermore, he sustained suffering and the surrender of his life
for the sake of standing in the gap and standing up for others, despite his innocence and his virtue.
Now, we're going to talk about this tomorrow when we deal with advocacy. How the scriptures tell us that Jesus' crucifixion happened as a result of the stance he took in defense of those who were poor and vulnerable.
So here he was, standing up for and standing in the gap for the vulnerable, the suffering, the marginalized, for sinners like you and me. And it was incredible suffering. Remember, this is Jesus who called out on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? He sustained the suffering and kept the surrender of his life, despite his innocence and virtue.
When we know say we don't do nothing and they accuse him, what we do? We kick up fire.
Alright, let's compare that now. So, we see in Jesus there the courage, the self-control, the concern for justice, because that's what he was fighting for, and the wisdom in his responses and his engagement with persons that demonstrated deep faith, hope, and love. It was all for the love of the Father and for the love of humanity. Let's compare it to two other characters in the same story. One of them is Pilate, right? And this same idea that Pilate said, I find no basis for a charge against him. So, how is it that he found no basis for a charge against him and he still allowed him to be crucified? That means he had to stifle his conscience. If his calculation was, there's no charge, but yet he gave him up, what happened to his conscience? Brandon said, eat out. Not only that, part of what happened with Pilate is the crowd. Remember the crowd? It not only did he stifle his conscience, he submitted to undue influence. When he said, I find no basis for a charge against him, it's your custom for me to release one to you. What do people then say? We don't want him, we want Barabbas. And the pressure that they brought to bear upon him, he relented. So, not only stifled his conscience, he submitted to undue influence. And thirdly, I think what really took the cake with Pilate is that he was afraid of his own skin. He chose himself. Because when he tried the last time, hear what they said to him. Anybody who is a friend of this man is no friend of Caesar. Who was Caesar? Caesar was his boss. And ask if the emperor, and ask if the emperor wouldn't deal with him if he thought he was disloyal. So they configured the argument that if you let him go, it means you are no friend of Caesar. We report you to Caesar. They actually say we have no king but Caesar. That is Pilate was trying to think, this man is your king. I said we have no king but Caesar. The Jew, whoever the crowd was. But they were disowning in order to get Pilate. They put him under pressure. So he chose himself. So look at that and tell me, do you see any courage?
Nope.
Do you see any justice? Do you see any self-control?
All of it gone out the window. So when you're taking a contrast between Jesus and Pilate, under all that pressure, Jesus kept it together. Pilate fell apart. But Pilate is not the only one who was in the story. There's another guy whose name began with a P in the story. Peter. How about him? Before the day, what did Peter say? I will die for you before I deny you. But on the day, he failed to stand up to the commitment that he had made. Not only that, he failed to stand up to the commitment he had made because he gave in to fear. He was trying to save himself, like what we said. And you know that, this is in Matthew's Gospel, you know that Peter's integrity broke down when he started curse. You remember? Look up some words, man. That's the Jamaican interpretation. The text says he called down the curses upon himself. But if he ever knew any Jamaican, it would be very colorful. The sense of integrity was out the window. So there is in this text a stark contrast between Pilate and Peter on two hands, and Jesus on the other hand. Deep integrity. So the challenge for us is that we have to decide. We have to make a decision that we're going to live with integrity. We are following in the footsteps of Christ. Christ gave Christ's self in sacrificial surrender to the Father through the Spirit, and so was able to live in the holiness, not just of humility and simplicity, but also in the holiness of integrity. And this is the Jesus who is in us, forming us. So we need to decide to surrender to that holiness in us through Christ, making a decision that we're going to live these virtues that were manifest in Jesus' life and that are necessary for us to live with integrity. But I offer that we need more than a decision. For example, this is January 9th. By January 9th, many of us made decisions on December 31st. That we were going to change up this and that in our life for 2018, right? Made resolutions. I don't mean you here, but many people made resolutions at the start of the year. And often by the time you come to know some of these resolutions, some people go take out gym membership and we need more than decision. We need a dedication. So we make the decision and we need to have a dedication to live this decision. Not like Peter who made the decision the night before and the next day when he found himself in the situation he gave it up. We need a decision, but we need a dedication to live that decision. And I'm throwing in more in here. We need the decision, we need the dedication to live the decision. And then we also need a determination that no matter what we face, we are going to keep to our decision. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back. No turning back. So I'm going to keep this with dedication. And then, no matter what I face, I am going to hold on to this decision and dedication with determination. You're not getting me off on that one. Here's where I think we really need to get. We need to get to the place where we actually delight in living in holiness. God mirrors for us in Christ as model that God says is the measure that we should live by, and that God has provided Christ through the Spirit as the means to make it happen. That if we would really take it on and live it up, hold it up for the right society, it could transform our country. And so if we were to have a little effort in our country to look at these four values and apply them to everything we do: dignity, honesty, industry, and community. Dignity, honesty, industry, community. Dignity, for example.
in how we carry ourselves, in how we talk to one another, but in the realization of the dignity of human life. Would we have the kind of murder rate we have now? I've lost count. Today is the 9th now? I don't know if it was the 7th or the 8th, it was 42. How many days is that now? Still hovering around 5-6 a day. If we could inculcate from in the cradle the sense of the dignity of human life, how we carry ourselves, how we talk to one another, how we treat life. Honesty. One of the biggest problems we have in our country behind crime, the next thing more in the surveys we're going to say is corruption. So if we could put forward, encourage, teach, and gender in the curriculum. Honesty. And then the other one is we say, boy, the economy is a problem. We don't issue is productivity. So if we were to treat with seriousness a program of helping to inculcate a concern for industriousness, for really working hard, the value of transforming our society through our effort and our ingenuity. One thing that amazed me is that some of the criminality that we're engaged in takes more effort and energy than it would do to work honestly to get this stuff. So it seems to me that it's just a mismatch of the values. And if we could take it on, and then community at all levels, from the level of family to neighborhood to all the other manifestations and to the whole society, which would deal with the question of how we relate to one another. So I've kind of, from that day, Reverend Edwards, kind of, with every opportunity I get, to see if we can, as church, not just sit down on the gift that we have of our life in God, which can enable us to encourage a new morality in the society, but to see if we can get up and stand up and call for it and mirror it and manifest it and teach it and inculcate it until it spreads like wildfire in the society. May God so help us, for Christ's sake. Amen. Bow your heads with me.
Holy God, you challenged us to be holy as you are holy, which sounds so stupendous, so crazy. How could we ever be holy like you? But it is not just stupendous, it's gracious. It's that you are inviting us into a possibility that you can make reality. And so we ask you, help us to truly say yes. To say, yes, we will live in holiness, and we'll start with humility. And we will live in holiness, and we'll continue with simplicity. And we will live in holiness, and we will seek to embrace integrity. To examine ourselves, and where there are gaps, seek to bring more and more of self into conformity to you, and to do so by deliberately practicing and inculcating virtuous living. We thank you for the cardinal and spiritual virtues. Prudence, justice, temperance, fortitude, and the spiritual virtues which make it possible to live the cardinal virtues: faith, hope, love. The faith, hope, love fortitude, temperance, justice, and wisdom that we see in Christ, even when he was under the most intense pressure. Pilate, who was his judge, dropped the ball. Peter, who was his disciple, dropped the ball, but he held firm. Grant that with this Christ living in us, we will exercise the faith and the hope and the love that will cause the transformation, the ever-deepening transformation of our life into the virtuous life that Christ lived. Help us to decide to do it, to be dedicated to do it, to be determined to sustain, and to get to the place where it is so much our practice that we delight in it. And Lord, help us to take up the challenge in this country of ours that is reeling from violence, that is reeking of corruption, that is struggling in our economy, and where we have so much challenge in our human relations to hold up for the rest of the society, to seek to inculcate in the next generation and in everyone the dignity, the honesty, the industry, and the community that can truly transform our society. Make us holy as you are holy. For Christ's sake.